Welcome back to NPO Showcase. My guests on this second segment of NPO Showcase are Lori Kroger, the founder of CFS Solutions of West Michigan, and Ruth James, a member of CFS Solutions of West Michigan. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
CFS stands for chronic fatigue syndrome. Ruth, what is that?
Well, chronic fatigue syndrome is a difficult to diagnose, multifaceted neuroimmune disease. It has several manifestations, I guess, that might trigger the thought of a diagnosis. I guess the first one I want to talk about is what they call post-exertional fatigue. I don't mean being tired like you've had a busy day at work. I mean not being able to lift your head up off the pillow. We frequently run fevers for no apparent reason. Our lymph glands get swollen. Our throats are sore. We have joint pain that's frequently associated with that. And again, it kind of symptom shifts, goes all over the place. So what you feel today may not be what you feel tomorrow, which is one of the reasons it's so difficult to diagnose.
And for the diagnosis, you need to have those symptoms for more than 6 months.
I recognize that it's a very difficult syndrome to diagnose, and that for a long time people just simply had this. And doctors even thought it was in people's heads, didn't they?
Absolutely.
Yes, they did.
Which is not only very difficult, but also very depressing, I'm certain, to the individual.
It is. It's frustrating.
I take it that both of you personally have chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yes, I have chronic fatigue syndrome. For 4 years, I was bedridden in a wheelchair, very sick, and it took a number of years to get diagnosed. As you can see, I'm doing better, although it still affects every day of my life. And I'm here today talking to you, but what the viewers won't see is when I go home that I will have that post-exertional fatigue where I am just very weak and tired. There's a slow onset and a quick onset, and I had a quick onset. I could give you the date. May 19th, 2002 is when mine started.
And you were living a very active life, and all
yes.
at once?
Yes, I was an ICU nurse and did volunteer in the community, mountain biked. I was very, very active.
And it just came on like that?
Yes.
How?
Yeah. And I've been declared disabled now since 2005.
Now, what about you, Ruth?
Mine was also rapid onset. I got the flu. I think it was, again, 2002. Got the flu and it never went away. CFS is relapsing and remitting. I was a teacher, and so I was able to continue teaching for 6 years. I think it was really a blessing. I would get sick every summer and spend all the summers in bed. And then I would teach, and then finally 3 years ago, I also was a runner. And after I finished my last race, I realized I'd never run again. And I've been disabled for 3 years now.
How very, very difficult. And so, Lori, what you've done is you've founded a support group, an advocacy group for people with CFS.
Yes, I did.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, like I said, it does take a long time for you to get diagnosed. And being an ICU nurse, I knew how to navigate my way around the medical community. And I was having a hard time getting the help that I needed. And when a doctor, I seen like 17 doctors and specialists, and finally one of them sent me to Mayo Clinic. And when I got the diagnosis, I thought, oh good, now we can come back and I could just take a pill and get back to work and my life will be fine. But that wasn't the case. When I came back and told my doctor that I had this illness, chronic fatigue syndrome, all of a sudden I lost my credibility. The diagnosis made me lose my credibility. And they said it was a waste paper diagnosis, and I had a hard time getting help. And as a nurse, I would write care plans for my patients, and I was so sick, I needed somebody to take care of my health, and no one did. And I really felt betrayed by my own profession and by my own kind. And I was laying in bed thinking, what do people do who don't have the medical knowledge? that don't know how to navigate themselves through the system. And that's what gave me the passion to help guide people and to help them manage their symptoms. There's no cure for this, but you can manage symptoms. But I also want to let you know that you can do everything right, a good diet, you can take your supplements, you can take your medications, you can get the proper rest and still be sick. It's not your fault, but that's how you're made to feel, that it's your fault.
You had to go to Mayo to get a diagnosis. Could someone today get a diagnosis in Grand Rapids?
I think it's up to where you go to the doctors. I received a diagnosis in Grand Rapids at a rheumatologist, brought that diagnosis back to my general practitioner, who told me he didn't believe in it. I then went to Cleveland Clinic to see the CFS specialist there. Since that time, I found a doctor in Muskegon who treats me for CFS. But it's a very difficult diagnosis to both get and then to personally receive. There's a difference.
Certainly, certainly, certainly. It sounds like this is an area in which physicians need to be seriously educated.
Yes, and they're not being educated about it in schools or any of that. But there has been some really good science that has happened in the last 10 years. And just recently, the Whitmore-Peterson Institute in Reno, Nevada discovered it's XMRV, a retrovirus, and it is significantly linked to chronic fatigue syndrome. They also found it in a very progressive prostate cancer. And since it is a very big discovery that is in Discovery Magazine's top 100 discoveries for 2009. So there's a little bit of hope there on the horizon, and the people that are in the chronic fatigue syndrome community, they're all excited about this finding and hoping that it will lead to a cure or at least some treatment.